Have a look at this photograph. What do you see? 3 people sitting on the ship's rudder. Well, they are not posing for Instagram. These people sat like this on the narrow metallic rudder for 11 days. 11 days as the ship sailed from Nigeria to Canary Islands. These men traveled halfway across the world in choppy, deep waters, with their feet dangling just a few feet above the Atlantic Ocean. Why would someone do that? For the sake of a better future. These men are migrants. When they were found, the men had symptoms of dehydration, hypothermia. They are not the first or the last to risk their lives in the search for a safer home. You remember this photo? It had shaken the world. This is Elan Kurdi. He was from Syria. The little boy was fleeing his war-torn country along with his parents and elder brother. They had paid $2,300 to someone to get into a dinghy and cross the Aegean Sea. They were crossing from Turkey into Greece. There were 17 people on board. The boat was overcrowded. The sea was rough. The boat capsized. 12 people drowned. Elan was one of them. Only his father survived. He carried the 3 bodies back to their home in Syria's Kobane. This is Oscar Alberto Martinez Ramirez. He was found dead on the bank of the Rio Grande in Mexico. The little girl next to him is his 2-year-old daughter, Valeria. Ramirez and Valeria were trying to swim across the river in search for a better home. Did no country have room for them? Hello and welcome to Gravitas Plus. My name is Gambhir. Do you know who a refugee is? The term is used to describe a person who flees her home because of the threat of persecution. Here is how the United Nations Human Rights Council defines a refugee. It says a refugee is someone who, owing to well-founded fear of being persecuted for reasons of race, religion, nationality, membership of a particular social group or political opinion, is outside the country of his nationality and is unable or unwilling to return. The UNHCR estimates more than 68% of all refugees are from these countries. First on the list is Syria, 6.8 million refugees. Venezuela, 4.6 million people displaced abroad. Afghanistan, 2.7 million refugees. South Sudan, 2.4 million refugees. Myanmar, 1.2 million refugees. And why do you think that is? Syria, like most of you already know, is in the middle of a civil war. Rebel groups are fighting the President Bashar al-Assad, who succeeded his father Hafez after his death in 2000. Foreign powers have picked their sides. Russia, for example, is backing al-Assad, so is Iran. And then you have the US, the UK and France backing rebel groups, so is Saudi Arabia. The war has been going on for over 10 years now. At least 1 million people have lost their lives. 22 million have fled their homes, of whom 6.9 million are internally displaced. At least 2 million are living in camps, and some 6.8 million are refugees or asylum seekers abroad. Venezuela, what's happening there? Hyperinflation, political crisis. People are struggling to access food, get a proper home or a stable job. What about Afghanistan? Well, the country has been torn apart by decades of war. South Sudan is a story of civil war. This is a pretty new country. South Sudan became a new country in 2011 following a deadly civil war. 2 years later, conflict broke about again. And finally, we have Myanmar. Most refugees from Myanmar are Rohingyas. They are a Muslim minority in a Buddhist country, and their exodus began in 2017. This was following a wave of violence in their home state of Rakhine. All in all, at least 89.3 million people around the world have been forced to flee their homes. Among them are 27.1 million refugees, at least half of whom are under the age of 18. These numbers are as of 2020. Where did these people go? 83% of the world's refugees and Venezuelans displaced abroad are hosted by low and middle income countries. 72% are hosted in neighboring countries. Which countries are we talking about? These ones. They host the largest population of refugees and Venezuelans displaced abroad. Turkey leads the list with 3.8 million refugees. Colombia, 1.3 million. Uganda, 1.5 million. Pakistan, 1.5 million. Germany, 1.3 million. You see, not all countries are ready to accept refugees. For starters, because welcoming them requires investment, spare land to set up camps, look after their welfare, pave the way for their integration into the society. Many countries fear adding more people to their cities would mean stretching the resources. And then there are some countries that can afford to take in refugees because they can use the refugee dividend, like Germany. It has an aging society, shrinking working age population, so the arrival of younger refugees helps Germany. It gives the country the much needed demographic dividend, skilled workers. And this applies to a lot of other European countries. According to one estimate, a third of recent refugees in Sweden are graduates. More than two-thirds of them have skills that match graduate job vacancies. But what if you already have too many graduates and not enough jobs to match their skills? India found itself in a similar situation during the Rohingya exodus. It could not take in all those fleeing Myanmar. India is not a signatory to international laws which secure the rights of refugees to seek asylum. I'm talking about the UN Refugee Convention of 1951 and the UN Refugee Protocol of 1967. Today, those entering India without a valid visa are treated as illegal immigrants under the Foreigners Act or the Indian Passport Act. That does not mean India shuts its doors to refugees every time. It has let in refugees. For example, in 1971, after Bangladesh's War of Independence, India took in tens of thousands of Bangladeshi refugees. Again, in 2009, when Sri Lanka's civil war ended, India took in Sri Lankan Tamil refugees, gave them allowance, and allowed them to look for jobs. India has also taken in Tibetan refugees, and there are some who politicize refugees, like former US President Donald Trump did. His campaign promised a border wall with Mexico. In his rallies, he called Mexicans rapists. When Trump was voted to power, he built that wall, and now Trump is promising to build another wall if he is voted to power again. Sometimes countries like to pick and choose who they give refuge to. We saw this play out during the initial days of the Russia-Ukraine war, where people of color were being stopped at the border. But those who looked conventionally European were being let in. Now, where does all of this leave the refugees and the asylum seekers? A couple of days ago, a migrant was spotted paragliding over a border fence and crossing into Spain from Morocco. Have a look.
Un puto paracaídas, ha caído un puto paracaídas, hermano, increíble. ¿Qué hostión se acaba de dar?
Llama a la Guardia Civil. Llama a la Guardia Civil.
The three men who reached Canary Islands by traveling on the ship's rudder, well, the Spanish authorities are sending them back.